We have 4 people watching. Awesome. See if we get a few more. This was pretty impromptu. I apologize for no advanced notice. But I want to get this thing out of the box. I just can't contain myself anymore. So for those that are here, this is the new Geeetech A30 large format printer. 3 of these went out, one to myself, one to Jimmy Shaw, and one to Jeffrey up at the Print 3D channel. We're going to make best efforts not to discuss the printer with each other so that none of us can be accused of colluding or influencing each other's reviews on the units. We all know that we have them, but we're gonna try to compartmentalize that a bit, just to make it fair. I think we all have unique perspectives on the large format printer. I know Jeffrey comes from the world of playing with his G-Max, but he's also very much a consumer user, where Jimmy hasn't really dealt much with the large format printer, so he's going to have a unique perspective on that. But he has dealt a lot with the Geeetech and you know, done some troubleshooting on his printers and dialing them in. And then I come more from the hackers kind of side of things. I mean, I have my G-Max that's in pieces at the moment, but I've got the background and the experience, you know, building them and modifying the heck out of that thing. So I have a base of comparison on the large format for that. And do we have anyone else? I see 4 people watching. So we'll see if anybody else shows up. Give it a few more minutes here. This is very similar sized to the CR10 and the TiVo Tornado, but it has some improvements to it, I'm hoping, that make a difference. It has a dual rail system on the y-axis rather than just a single floater down the middle. It actually has 2 rails spaced out, similar to how the G-Max does it, which theoretically will prevent side-to-side wobble of the bed and hopefully prevent nose diving at the extremes. Basically, you know, just like your car, wider footprint, more traction, hugs the ground a little bit lower, more stable. So hopefully that's an improvement over the CR10 design. It does have, like the CR10S, it does have dual Z motors on it, one on either side. It has a filament sensor. I believe it has power outage detection. And who else do we have? Country 3D streaming too. Okay. Well, unfortunately, I don't have time tonight to wait him out. So it is what it is. I guess we can get started with you guys here. Thanks for those that did make it on. Eddie's here. Evening, Eddie. And Matt Johnson, Dragon Monk, and that looks like it. So you guys get the sneak peek to the sneak peek. Let's pop the knife open, see what's in the box. It is definitely taped well, or my knife is dull, one or the other, or both. All right, we have box. Let's let me go over to the down cam. Oh, okay, he's on his way. Just wrapping up. All right, there's our down cam. So top of the box, we have a packing sheet. And it might be upside down for you guys. Maybe I need to orientate it this way for you guys to be able to see. How's that? So we have the packing sheet of the parts list. We have a quick start guide with lots of colorful pictures and 6 steps to assembly. And then we have the assembly manual. So I'm going to set all 3 of these aside now. Let's do the big reveal. Ready? Let's do this. There we have it. Very well packed in foam. This thing is not going anywhere, and it looks to be dual layer. So this looks to be the base and the bed. So let's go ahead and lift this out as one big piece. Yep, so it comes out as one big piece. We'll set this aside for now. And our second layer here has a box, a control box, and what looks to be the X-axis and the Y-axis underneath more foam. So this thing is really well packaged. Let's pull that out. We'll set this back here. We'll pull out this CR10 style control box. I'll set this over here for now. Hey, everyone's showing up. How are y'all? Good. We're just getting started. We're just pulling it out now. So this is the X and Y axis, which is actually really well down in there. I apologize, I'm not really looking over at the chat right at the second as I'm trying to pull this out, but I will take a peek over there. It does look like there's a filament sensor back here, and that was parked on the downside. It looks like it's mounted on some sort of a ball, so that's very cool, but worth mentioning to pay attention to that, because if I would have yanked that out the wrong way, that could have snapped that off. So let's pull this out. Let's toss this guy aside. Let's check on the chat real quick and find my mouse. Um, 5 hours. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to catch up. The cost is, I believe it's about anywhere from $430 to $480, I believe is the price range I've seen. It is slightly larger than a CR10. I think it's 305 or 320 by 320, and it's slightly taller. There's a link in the description, or I know we've got Eddie Moser there who's going to go pull those up for you real quick. Because Eddie's my main mod. So let's pull out the base section here. Ouch. Try not to cut ourselves. I'm going to try to angle this in here. So as I noted, unlike the CR10, which just has a single rod down the middle, this has 2 rails that are spread out to keep it a little bit more stable. The rest of it looks very similar in construction to a CR10. It has the coated build plate here. End stop at the back for the Z. I'm sorry, for the Y. So let me reorientate these, and let's take a look at the bottom of this. So the bottom is 3 wheels on each rail, which is good. Then Then it looks like that there are actually already knurled nuts on the bed leveling screws in the four corners, which are nice because I know that is one of the primary upgrades that I see people doing. Got the rubberized feet over here. All right, so let's swap these positions and lay this down underneath. Actually, let's stand this guy up and lay this guy down. There we go, how's that? And then let's take a look at what's in the manual here. I'm sorry, what's in the box? Who's on first? Exactly it. We have a US style IEC power cord. We have a Geeetech mouse pad, which will come in very handy on my desk. I like that. That is cool little swag. And then we have all these goodies. So let's see what's in the bag. Duo, how are you? Been a while. Eddie. Thanks, Walter. I just saw that. And Eddie, thanks for posting that. 320 by 320 by 420, 479. That is the Geeetech price. I believe it is actually cheaper on GearBest and BangGood. But I'm waiting to confirm before I recommend people look at it there. I'm waiting to confirm with the Geeetech folks that was GearBest, okay. I saw it cheaper elsewhere. Before I recommend looking on BangGood or GearBest for it, because Geeetech does sell it directly, I want to make sure that those are authentic, that it is actually their printer, and not somebody spoofing it and selling it, or old models or something. So I'll update links on those. Okay, we have, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts in this bag of one size. You say spare screw set. So since they're spares, it looks like they've got hammer style T-nuts in here and an assortment of other screws. I like spares. Let's set those aside. We have a small tool bag here. It looks like a screwdriver and a few assorted hex drivers, and some sort of a pin for something that I don't know what it does. That is odd. It's not a typical nozzle clearing pin. This is, it looks like maybe it's for ramming through the extruder to force something through. We have a 1 gigabyte micro SD card. We'll set that aside. We have some cable ties. We've got a bracket with an end stop on it here. We have the opposite side bracket here. These all have the hammer nuts, and these are aluminum brackets. We've got some starter filament and a USB 2.0 cable that looks to be about 1.5 meters long. Get the bonus ½ meter out of that thing. And then these, whatever they are. I'm assuming that this is the filament holder, or the, filament holder. No, it does not have PEI coated spring steel. It has an aluminum oxide type coating directly on the glass. It looks very similar to the Anycubic bed plate, or actually what you'd see on your typical convection oven at home, especially if you grew up in the 70s and the 80s and remember seeing those glass cooktops with that aluminum look like this. So let's see what's in here. Wow, this is wrapped so tightly, I think I'm going to use a knife. Yeah, this is the spool holder in here. That looks like the spool holder itself and the arm. And whatever's in this. This kind of looks like Spam Musubi, the way that it's done up like this. I don't know. I know if I had young children, they would find this very entertaining, trying to unwrap this. It's tempered glass, Eddie, underneath the aluminum coating, or the aluminum oxide, I believe they called it. Okay, this looks like a pre-cut piece of extrusion. One. Pre-cut piece of extrusion 2. So let's look at our parts list here and see that we have everything. There we go. So we have the bottom frame parts, check, and pre-assembled, the vertical frame parts, and the control box. Check, check, and check. Hexagonal socket cap screw, 4 of those of 5 by 20 millimeter. I'm going to guess 5 of 20 millimeter. Check. Z-axis stator kit, aluminum alloy. That's going to be these. Why they call them stators, I do not know, but we'll roll with that. And we'll go. Those are the 2. Hex screws, M3 by 6 millimeter, Fastenal filament holder. Ah, that's for these. So, I'm guessing those are in this bag here. Okay, those are there, the 2 of those. Flathead screwdriver. Check. There's basically 9 pieces in the tool bag, so let's see if we got all 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope, we have 6. This is that pin that I was talking about that I couldn't quite tell exactly what it is. I'm guessing it is, by diameter, it's meant to somehow clear a jam. So this looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 Allen keys. Oh, it's not quantity, it's 9, 4 of these. My bad, everything is there. Okay, the filament holder metal, check. Filament holder plastic, and the 2 nuts, check, check, check. 1 gigabyte flash card, check. USB cable, check. I'm reading upside down. Spare screw package, zip ties, check, check. Starter filament, check. Mouse pad, whoop. And the aluminum profile Z-axis adjusters. That's what these are. I'm guessing these are going to go underneath there somewhere in the process for allowing for leveling the Z-axis. All right, so let's set these out of the way here. We know we have everything. So far, all good. Nothing looks to be damaged. It looks like everything is here. Everything seems to be in good repair. Based on other people's findings lately, I'm checking that all of these set screws are installed on these stepper motors that require them. Check, check. And I can't see that one to check it, but let's just, yep, there it is. So we are missing no set screws on any of, oh, and this guy. Yep, we are not missing any set screws on any of our stepper motors. So that wasn't a known issue with this printer. That was seen recently on some other printers, right? All right, so let's check the chat here. Math is tough when filling tool bags. Upside down 9. Yep, Duo, it was an upside down 9. Proper V wheels and T-slot. Yes, it is both proper V wheels and T-slot. Although I can't say they are authentic, well, can't call them clones either, since it's the keyword in open builds is open. But they are not made by open builds, I would assume. But it is a V-slot profile on both the wheels and the extrusion. All right. So let's pop out the assembly guide and see what it takes to put this thing together. Step one, open the package, take out the bottom frame, take out the documentation. Meet your A30. Hi A30, nice to meet you. It does have a touchscreen here, and it does have the filament sensor here. USB port and a TF card slot on the side of this, check and check. Hang the filament off the spool, so that's going to go on the top of this guy. Plug the power cord, turn on the fan, insert the filament. Okay, so this is preparing to print, yet we have to assemble it first. So let's set this aside. That's jumping the gun just a tad. And we'll set that down here. Let's jump into our assembly manual. And you know what? I'm going to do something. This might mess with you guys a little bit, but let's see how this works. Hang on. Hi, Heather. We're going to... Oops. Okay. That gets you in the same orientation as me. Is that any better? All right. So I'm going to try to hold this up so you guys can see the instruction manual, although it is online. The first thing that they show you on page 1 is safety instructions. It is well worth a read. It's easy to build. I'm going to paraphrase as I read here. It's easy to build because it's almost entirely built, so please refer to the Quick Start Guide. However, we cannot be responsible for your health and safety whilst building the original printer. With that in mind, be confident in what you're doing prior to commencing with building or buying. Read the entire manual to make sure that you made an informed decision. I'm going to repeat that. Read the entire manual to make sure that you made an informed decision. This is something I always stress, and people see me say it on Twitter all the time. Consumers looking to buy this, read the manual before you buy it to make sure that the assembly steps are not tasks that you're not comfortable doing or you're not willing to take on. Geeetech agrees. All right. Building and operating involves electricity. It runs on 12 volts, but it's fed from mains. And there are high temperatures involved. The hot end can run up about 230 degrees. We all know that. Check. So we've gone through the packing list. And we know what everything is. Spare screws, general care, and maintenance. Here we go. General equipment. It's important to keep your printer clean. Don't leave the heaters on. Don't leave it in the shade or moist places where they might rust or erode. The 3 axes are lubricated with grease for smooth operation. Can last a long time. Grease may be reapplied to your printer to maintain smooth performance. And avoid positioning your power supply in a way such that the brick is hanging. And that is it. That does not include assembly instructions. However, I know the assembly instructions are available online, so iPad time. Where did my iPad go? I had it here somewhere. Ah, there it is. Let's pull this up. I know that this is available online. Ignore me as I try to find it. There we go. That should have been included, and I bet it's on the SD card, but I'm not willing to look on the SD card right now, so I will let you know later if it is or not on the SD card. I'm not faulting Geeetech for that not being there at the moment. But it is nice that they have the other paper documentation. Here we go. User Manual, Assembly Instructions, and Assembly Manual. And that was the Assembly Manual. Okay, the Assembly Instructions is what we are looking for. Tips, the wires are marked XYZ, and how to do it. So, there we go. All right, so we're going to basically, let's unwrap our cables first. Good luck finding an end to start those with. Ooh, and we have bubbles that we could pop later too. The cats are going to enjoy that if I don't shred it. All right, so this is our bed cable. It looks to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-pin aircraft style connector that is keyed. And it looks to be some decent gauge wiring going in. However come I don't know exactly what these pins are rated for. But let's pull that out and set that aside for the moment. Okay, and we're going to find these, as they call them, stators. Going to pull these out. This one has an end stop on it. This one does not, and it has the 2 bags for the filament holder, so we're going to set that over hither to the side. Then we've got the 4 bolts that'll go through the bottom there. And it looks like there are washers on these too, lock washers, so let's put those in here quick. Okay, vertical frame Z-axis. So step 2 is it's going to tell us to fix the Z-axis to the Y-axis with these screws. So let's set these ones aside. We're going to find the appropriate size hex wrench. Where is my hex wrenches? Hex wrenches? Anywhere? Anyone? Bueller? Anybody seen them? They're here somewhere. I just had them. All right, who stole my hex wrenches? Eddie, was it you? Did you steal my hex wrenches? Just had them, seriously. I'm cursed. I don't want to have to do this using the tiny little hex wrenches that come in the box. Ah, there they are. I have my own. So let's identify the proper size, which that is too small. So it looks to be, I think it's going to be that one. Yes, I talk to myself when you guys are listening. There we go. That is going to be a number 7 millimeter. All right. So we're going to pull these aside. Going to determine which way this goes. And I'm assuming, based on the pictures here, that it's going to go in this orientation. So we're going to set this up on its side. Push one through screw. And just get that started. Might even be easier to try to balance this like so. Not tightening them all the way down just yet. I'm just getting them started because I want to make sure that they line up. And I've never assembled a CR10, so I'm not sure how similar this process is. Now I can tighten those up snug. Sorry, you guys can't see this well at this position, but all right, let's flip this back over. So for those that joined us late, this is a Geeetech A30. It is their answer to the CR10. It's a very similar frame design printer, although it's slightly taller and slightly bigger. It's more closer, I guess, or more similar. Is that the word? More similar? It shares more traits with the CR10S. It has a filament sensor on it, a touch screen, and it has both dual Z rods on both sides, not just the one and the other side floating. It uses proper V slot and V wheels. And it has a tempered glass bed with the heater directly attached to the bottom. So it's very similar to the Anycubic style bed. With the aluminum something or other coating on the top that makes it non-stick. It's supposed to be permanent versus build tack type surface that needs to be replaced. All right, so those are screwed on. I just want to make sure I don't have any tangles here. Oh, let me see if I can show this to you guys. I like this kinda. Hang on a second, I want to show you guys something here. Grabbing the seizure cam, and I apologize for that. Okay, so this is how their bed wiring is done. You can see that it's soldered, and I do wish that was covered with something, but I'm okay with that. They're using proper gauge wiring for the heater and the thermistor element. But if you notice that they're making a loop right there, and then if you can see that, let me get the best angle. You can see that there's a cable tie down there on the screw that goes up and down that it loops through. So it loops through this way, and it gets proper strain relief, so the tension is not on the end of that cable. I am completely okay with that method of doing this. That is an awesome way to do the strain relief. All right, right, so let's stand this thing back up. All right, thanks guys. Oh, Jimmy's here too. Hey, Jimmy. Everyone else that's joining up. Let's see. Sorry if I'm missing comments. I'm trying to read the screen over yonder while I'm over hither and all that. All right, so our next step is going to be putting on, as they call them, these stators. Thanks, Walter. Yeah, I like his shirts. They are nice and comfy, and they actually don't show grease when I'm working, so they're easy to get dirty in too, and they just wash out. All right, so back to this here. So we have the left and the right side. The right side is going to be the one with the end stop, and according to this, the right side is the one with the end stop. The left side is not, although that seems to be backwards. So let me make sure that I'm seeing this correctly. Okay, front, left, and right. Unless they're calling it the right from the back view. Yeah, they are. So they're calling it the left and the right in this orientation. So this is the left, this is the right. There. Right. So our end stops and our stator pieces are going to go here and here. And so let's flip this up and screw these on. Let's see if that's going to show up on camera. So these have the hammer nuts on them. And that's just going to line 2 of them up straight, 2 of them up that way. And theory says that should just drop right on there. And of course, this is going to use a different size hex wrench than I pulled out, but I was expecting that, and I already have it here ready to go. It's either this one or the next one. This one. There we go. Let's just throw our tools everywhere. Hand tighten these. And you can't see that, can you? So basically those just slip on like so. That is an aluminum bracket, 4 screws. I'm just hand tightening them at the moment since I just dropped my wrench. I'm going to leave that precariously floating and try not to touch it as I walk around here to pick up my wrench or my nut driver, whatever we want to call it. And we're going to go ahead and tighten this up. Not super tight, but tight enough. Yeah, I know, I've got butterfingers. Remove the spring from the belt on the Y-axis. Ken, short answer is I will not be making any modifications to this printer until after I review it. How's that for an answer? This will be reviewed, for lack of better words, in situ, as factory as they want to be, or as close to factory as I can get that. And this other side is going to drop on the same way. We're going to line up the T-nuts here. going to hand tighten these down. And let's give these a little tension. So this has involved a total of 4, 5, 6 screws per side, so a total of 12 screws. And it is, other than connecting the wires up, it is now assembled. There is nothing else to do there with that. So let's unwrap this guy. Thank you, Collins. I appreciate that. Appreciate that very much. Martine, if you're still there, you just finished assembling the CR10S, is that correct? Or was yours the regular CR10? So some of the functions, as I try to get this thing off on to distract myself and you guys from making fun of me fighting with the plastic, some of the functionality that this printer has, as I mentioned earlier, there on the control box here, it does have a touch screen on it, which is nice. I do not know what firmware is running on this yet. I will be doing some experimentation on that and finding out what firmware, checking the status of if it meets GPL or not, and investigating that to make sure that we have an accurate assessment of where it's at. It would not surprise me, given the fact that it has a touch screen, it wouldn't surprise me either way if it was a Marlin back end sitting behind a touchscreen, serial attached touchscreen, or if it was something proprietary and their own 32-bit board running their own proprietary firmware. Wouldn't shock me either way, but I will make sure that that information comes out and everyone is made aware. Okay, so first thing I noticed here, this Bowden tube may end up getting replaced. There's a nasty little kink on it here. And that may have been my fault, not their fault, from when I was flipping it over to try to get that oriented. So we'll see how that feeds filament through, and if necessary, I will replace that piece of Bowden tube. That is an easy one. Ron, how are you doing? Good, good, good. All right. Finally got both cables unplugged. Okay, so they are, each one of them has a different number of pins in it. So there's only one way that these can plug in over here. So it goes in just one way. The back of this control box has what looks to be a lighted power switch. I'll hold that up to the camera here in just a second. And let's see if we can get this up here on camera. You can tell the power supply is at the bottom of this guy. It has the big old rocker switch here for power. It looks like a lighted one, as well as a fused IEC connector. Before I forget, let's make sure it's set to the proper voltage here. It needs to be set to 110 for me, or 220 for others. And it looks like I have one more cable to unwind here, which this one doesn't look as bad as long as I can find the end. This is going to be the end stop triggers, it looks like. Let's see. Okay. If you guys can see it here, and I'll zoom it up later, there's a 3-pin port already pre-wired at the top of, and a little bracket here at the top of the hot end. It does not include the the ABL probe. It is compatible with a capacitive probe, and that can connect there at the top. They have one that's pre-terminated to go onto that little connector that they sell for about 12 bucks more. From what we were told by our GearBest, our Geeetech contacts, they are working on the firmware to support the ABL and to improve that. So they didn't want to provide those to us at this time because the firmware isn't quite ready, and they didn't want that feature to impact, the user experience. They didn't want us to find it not working, get frustrated with it when that's a kind of a day 2 feature, so to speak. So, which is totally understandable. Okay, so these are going to be the end stop and stepper motor wires. These are labeled as in Z. Actually, there's 5 of them here. 4 of them here. Sorry. There's Y, X, and other Z. So I'm going to see if I can pull these under. I'm not going to worry about lacing these together nice and pretty right now because this is going to get moved, and I don't necessarily want to have to undo all the zip ties and then redo all the zip ties once I get them moved. So we just want them to be safely out of our way. This is going to be our Z axis, our Z. So the Z is going to go over here. That is going to go onto that stepper, and that's odd. That's a 3-pin. Okay. That says Z, but I think that's meant to be the X because the Z is a non-moving. So we'll try it, see what happens. I can always move those, but it doesn't make sense wiring-wise for that to go to the static spot below. Okay, that's plugged in. Okay, this is going to be our Y, which is going to go to the end stop here, and the stepper motor over here. We'll tuck that down. And last but not least, this is going to be, I assume, my extruder. Okay, that says X. That's why. Never mind, disregard. I plugged this into the wrong place. It was Z down here, not Z up, not Z on the X. Not sure why I was thinking that. So that is correct that it goes down there. All right. So this one goes up here. So we've got two steppers. One is going to be labeled as E, that's the extruder. We have this tiny little thing that's going to be our filament sensor. And that is a really tiny connector. Be very careful with it. And it looks like it's keyed so it only fits in one way. Then we have our X and our X and stop. So those are going to be the ones that plug into where I tried to plug in the other one. Which makes much more sense. There we have it. Now, ideal world, I would lace these cables up so that they are nice and pretty. Again, I'm going to be moving this around, so I don't want to do that right now. The directions show how to do the auto leveling. I'm going to do one thing here. If you guys can see this on frame, these two blocks that they called for the leveling blocks here, what we're going to do is we're going to put the bed kind of in the center. I'm assuming that these are what they are for because I've seen these before. We're going to manually turn the Z-axis over it. I just unplugged my two Z stepper motors so that they don't backfeed over here into the board. We're going to slide these equally underneath here like so. And we're going to turn it so that the Z just sits right on top of those. And like so. Okay, now we can plug our steppers back in. And this should be pretty much assembled. I want to gently turn these up equally to pull those out. Don't want to scratch that bed. Looks like we can put some power on this. Again, double check that you're on 110. And we're ready to power it up. So again, that end stop could plug in here into that bundle that goes into that connector. Let's check up here on the chat and see where we're at. Oh, reasonable being, thank you very much. I just caught that, I'm sorry. Awesome to hear. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate that, sir. That is a very reasonable thing for you to do. Much appreciated. And, you know, E3D V6 on the CR10, that's entirely up to you. It's Eddie Moser may actually have some opinions on that because he's modded the heck out of those things, but kind of on the fence about suggesting that because the hot end on the CR10 is known to work well, but that being said, the V6 is rock solid, but it's not going to be stock, so you're going to lose that comfort of knowing, you know, that it works the way it should out of the box. But at the same time, by modding it and getting that V6 on there, it opens the door to Olsen Ruby nozzles and all other kinds of things that you could start playing with, including Titan extruders. So there's lots of ways you could go. I might even consider putting a volcano on there, given the size of the bed. And I think that's caught up there. Yes, I'm scanning through. Everyone's answering the questions there. Answer that about oiling to prevent clogs. That was more common on the earlier E3D hot ends. The V6, their machining process has gotten much better and it's less critical there. But that was always recommended on the earlier model E3Ds much more. The only thing I haven't assembled here yet so far is the spool holder. So let's throw that together really quick. And then we can call this thing done. Yeah, I know I took my sweet time with it. There we go, the 2 screws. And of course that's going to take yet another size hex key. So one thing I would suggest if you pick up this printer or any printer, I'm not going to do it right now, trying to keep the time of the stream slightly managed, but the one thing I would always do with any new printer that's semi-pre-assembled like this out of the box is I would go through and check every single screw on it. Personally, make sure that they are all tightened up, nothing has gotten loose on shipping. As you saw earlier, guys, I had already checked to make sure that there were no missing grub screws. That had happened to somebody that we know up in Iceland recently, and it's happened to me before on other printers. So it's always something good to check. All right, that's on there good. And this will go through here like so. Spool holder will tighten down. All right, there's only one last assembly step left. So let's see if I can get this boom over here and get you the view of that. Let's see here. All right, let me switch cameras so you can see what I see. All right, there's our boom. Okay, you guys ready for this? This is the most important part of the installation and build process. There we have it. It is now officially done. All right, let's put some power on this thing and see if it fires up. I don't think I'm going to be running a print or loading filament right now, just because I still need to eat dinner. But we can report back on that at a later date. Give us something to do later. And we have 2 beeps. We have power on. We have a lot of glare on that screen. So that's what our touch panel looks like. It powers on. So let's go back to our main camera. And Yeah, sorry about the seasickness. I tried to keep that as smooth as possible. All right, so everything is on. Let's see if we can maneuver around here. I'm getting a temperature reading on both the bed and the hot end of 18 Celsius and 19 Celsius respectively. That's saying SD card removed. To settings, we have Wi-Fi, language, and screen call. Yes, Wi-Fi was the other thing that's going to be coming. It is currently disabled, but it is going to be coming as Wi-Fi printing using the Geeetech app. There we go. Is our firmware. It says device model Geeetech A30. Serial number, our firmware version is version 1.35.56. Printing volume of 320 by 320 by 420. A hardware version of V2.0-null. Detector is not installed. Oh, that's the filament detector. There we go. This does have a touchscreen calibration setting on it, which I will do here. Maybe that's what this pin is for. Three-point, 4-point. All right. So let's see if we can go to control. Let's home this thing and see what happens. Going to home the X. I'm sorry, the Y. Move that up out of the way. Let's home the X. We'll home a Z. All right, that looks like it's moving and homing, so that means our wiring, at least for now, is good. Let me do one more thing here, or two more things. We're going to move this. We're going to move the Z up. I'm going to get that off the bed. There's two fans here for the hot end and for the controller. Let's turn those both off. One fan here and one fan here. I'm sorry, I say controller. For the hot end and for the cooling. So both fans are turning on, and it's moving quite a bit of air there. At least it looks like it. It does have the cooling fan. We're going to go to settings. Oops, no, where am I at? Control, home. Home. Let's turn our temperatures up. Okay, I'm going to turn the hot end up to 110, and I'm going to turn the bed up to 50. Just to see if they both work. and I want to see both of our temperatures climb. The nozzle's up to 87, 88. It's getting there quickly. Bed's up to 30 already. I'm not going to go full temperature, but I do have both fans on, so I wanted to see how quickly it would get there. Bed's at 34. Hot end hit 120, even though I told it to go to 110, so it's dropping back down. Bed's at 36. Yes, thank you, Martin. Definitely the kink in the PTFE tube. That is on the to-do list. So this is the last check I want to run here. I mean, want to make sure that we can cook eggs on it, because, I mean, or at least fry pancakes, because, I mean, come on, bed surface like this, you could do a half a dozen pancakes in a jiffy. There is that kink, and again, that wasn't their fault, that was mine. Just so happens I have some cap tube though that I picked up at Murph. Rostock videos, I have put out part 10, I believe. There are a total of 15 in the build, and then the 16th video is a separate / spin-off for doing the configuration of the duet board. Does that answer your question, Ken? It's all filmed. As you can see, it's back here, it's printing. I just haven't had time to edit the videos and put them out. So I'm trying to do that every couple of days. And, ooh, that gets warm. Let's see what it's telling us it's at. Yep, bed's at 52 degrees, so it's there. So I think we are good on this thing. Turn it off, let it cool back down. And once I get it to its permanent home and off the bench, I will go through and lace up all the cabling and clean it up some, and we'll get some prints going. So anybody, I'm slide off to the side of the camera here over to the computer so I can see the chat better. Does anybody have any questions for me before we call it a night and I go grab some food? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller, Bueller, Bueller? Oh, Matt. Yeah, Randy Duo, we're not sure about that yet. Obviously, there's command stuff I can send to it over serial, and we can get those answers. We really don't know. If they won't provide the source code for it, which I don't know why they wouldn't. Geeetech's always been very good about providing their source code. They're on the Marlin NICE list, and they have been for a long time. So if they're not providing it right now and it is Marlin, my initial assumption would be is that they're holding off on releasing it until they finalize it with the Wi-Fi tweaks and the bed leveling stuff, and they just don't want the premature source floating around in the wild. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt on that until I, get a chance to investigate it and ask them. Again, knowing their history. So, all right. Any other questions? Or if not, I guess we can. Oh, does it have a filament run out and power on resume? Yes and yes. Let me go through that really quick. It's very similar to the CR10 and actually it's closer to the CR10S or the Tivo Tornado. It is dual, let me slide that forward just a little bit, dual lead screws. Build platform is slightly taller than the CR10. It's over 400 tall. I think it was 320 by 320 X and Y. But it is dual lead screws. It has a filament run out detector over here in the corner. It has power off resume, and it has a touchscreen. It also has the permanent coating on the bed here, where it's the heat bed attached to the bottom of the tempered glass with the aluminum coating on the top. And all different from the CR10, one thing that they've learned a lesson on and taking from the G-Max, which I like, is rather than the single rail down the middle, where it can have a tendency to teeter side to side, or potential to, I don't want to say tendency to, a potential to go side to side, you have dual rails, which widens up your footprint and allows you more stability on such a large build platform. And this thing actually doesn't wobble much at all. Underside, I highlighted earlier in the video, there's also much better strain relief on the the bed power cable. Here, it's soldered, but it loops around and is attached and gives it a nice strain relief loop. It's done properly. And again, I haven't laced in any of the cables yet, just because I'm going to be moving this and I don't want to have to redo them later. Wasn't missing any of the set screws or grub screws in any of the couplers. I haven't gone through and checked tightness of everything else, but everything else looks sound. These do have bearings blocks at the top, so while they're not preloaded, there are bearings holding the top to help minimize sea wobble. And it actually has proper springs on the threaded rods. And thanks, Walter. Yep, you can keep them that short. It's all entirely up to you. But thanks for popping in. And yeah, it looks like it looks like a good contender for the CR10. It's obviously the market that Geeetech is after with this. And I mean, so far it was easy to build. I'm going to look on the SD card to make sure that the other manual that I didn't see printed is actually on there, and actually going to read through that quick start sheet, because it might tell me to pop out the SD card to find those other manuals for the latest and greatest. Regardless, they were on the website and very easy to find, written in English that I was able to read. All of the cabling was labeled properly, so initial assessment is, so far as I'm impressed with how easy it went together. Everything just fit. Haven't obviously measured squareness or anything, but it only goes together one way, so I mean, it's very rigid. Hey, thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. It is not a BuildTak type bed, Jimmy. You'll find this out tonight. It is a permanent coating. I guess it could be considered BuildTak-ish, but it is a permanent coating on the bed that's permanently attached to the glass build sheet. Works and behaves like BuildTak, but it releases. You'll feel it when you open yours up, so I don't want to spoil any reveals for you. So anyway, folks, I am starving. It is well past dinner time for me here. It's going on 8:30. So let's call this a wrap. Thanks for everyone who jumped in, and be sure to look for some prints coming off this guy and a follow-up review. Again, 3 of these went out. We all received them today. Myself, Jimmy Shaw, who's in the chat, and Jeffrey Wright of the Print 3D channel. I think we all have different aspects or different thoughts on these large format printers based on different experiences. So we're trying to make sure that we're not colluding with each other at all. I mean, sharing our findings or feedback, but not necessarily our opinions. You know, we don't want to sway each other until after we're ready to do the reviews. We think that's in everyone's best interest to try to avoid that. So, but look for their content on these too. I'm curious to find out what their opinions are going to be. So far, es muy bueno. And with that, I need tacos. So let me check last minute in the chat here. I think that's about it. Was there any other? Nope, I didn't see any other questions there. So let's call it a night, everyone. Thank you very much. We will see you next time on Practical Printing. Aloha.